lost an election, went and served on several boards, and then worked at Learning Services, which was an assisted living facility for people with traumatic brain injury or acquired brain injury, sorry. So that's sort of the my history. And then when I was in the legislature, worked on a lot of disability legislation. And then I think I'm the first person in the history of the state to hire people in the governor's office that have lived experience with disability. So, and to focus just on disability policy. So that's a little bit about me.
Representative Ortiz, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, so we used to fly helicopters for the Army. I joined this community that anybody can join at any time. And if you're lucky enough to live long enough, you definitely will join at any time. When I survived a crash in Afghanistan in June of 2012, from there, I started advocating for better care for my brother and sister service members. The Army wasn't really good at dealing with spinal cord injury. Fought to go to Craig Hospital. That's what originally brought me here to Colorado. Received stellar care when I was there. Eventually started lobbying for veterans at the state capitol. During that time, I also was on the board of directors of the Mountain States Paralyzed Veterans of America and would inspect and tour spinal cord injury units at VAs across the country to make sure that we were improving the standard of care for patients there. Got recruited to run for office and stupidly said yes. So I am the first wheelchair user that ever got elected to the Colorado State Legislature. In fact, the floor wasn't even accessible when I got elected. So they had to do some renovations just to make one corner of the floor accessible. We still have a lot of work to do. So that's a little bit of my history. I'm still on the board of directors of Adaptive Adventures and try and work all things disability rights, outdoor sports, and making sure we have basic access in everything we do. So I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. Julie?
Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Riskin. I'm the co-executive director at the Colorado Cross Disability Coalition. We are the only statewide cross disability, which means all types of disabilities, disability-led organization in Colorado. And I think the largest disability rights organization. I apologize that I have my camera off. I'm in the mountains heading to the West Slope, so I'm trying to preserve the little bandwidth I have. And I've been, Lieutenant Governor, some of us were alive in the 60s and 70s.
Well, that's good.
I've been doing, I've been doing disability rights work for a long time, since before we had the ADA. I've been doing it in Colorado since about 1994. So I'm excited that this is happening. I'm excited that we have a that we have a much better legislature now and a governor's office, a space in the administration, and that has done a lot of good things and something we need to think about sustaining. So anyway, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Thanks, Julie. Elizabeth?
Hi, all. My name's Elizabeth Moran, and I'm the current executive director at the State ARC of Colorado. And it's great to see so many familiar faces on here, too. And I am a relative, I would say newbie, but I'm a returnee to Colorado. I lived in Colorado about 20 years ago, taught at CU, got my master's degree and taught at CU Boulder, and then went up the road to UNC Greeley, directed their dance program for a few years, and then decided that I was really tired of eating sprouts and wearing Lycra. And so I went and got myself a law degree. That's actually not the true story. The true story is I was addicted to C-SPAN 1 and 2, and I would watch all these late night legislative procedures, what was going on in DC, and going, who are all these people making all these rules about my life? And like, who are they? And I had this complete misconception that they were all attorneys. And so I needed a law degree to go to, Josh is laughing. Like, you know how much money I spent on that law degree to find that out? But no, I have an older sister with a developmental disability. I have a father right now who's in his middle stages of Alzheimer's, runs in my family. This is our third round dealing with Alzheimer's. Lieutenant Governor, I had no idea you had a background in TBI. And one of my best friends founded and started an organization in Kansas that does nothing but advocate for the disability rights of individuals with head injuries and traumatic brain injuries. And so it's something I know really well and have so much admiration for folks who work in that field, because to Representative Ortiz's point, we're all one life event away from being the person who has a disability and needs advocacy around our disability rights. So that's pretty exciting. I am thrilled to be here. I am excited about the work we're going to do here. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the ARC Thrift and ARC Chapter Network, the short version is this. Years ago, when we had a handful of ARC chapters, they would literally do grassroots bake sales, garage sales, car washes to raise money so that they could provide free advocacy for families who had children with intellectual and developmental disabilities. One of them went to California, saw that someone out there was doing a thrift store, came back here with that idea. The ARC thrift stores were born. They're the largest employers of individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities in the state. They generate a lot of revenue. Please donate to them. Please buy from them. And what happens is once they've paid all of their bills, anything that's left over goes into a big pile, and there's an allocations committee, and then they divide up. They have a formula to all of the state chapters. So the ARC chapter network. And every chapter provides disability rights advocacy in their region. And so my camp, the state chapter, we collaborate with all of those local chapters. Our focus is on legislation and policy. And then we provide advocate services for those outliers. So areas in Colorado that aren't otherwise covered by a regional chapter, we provide advocate services for them. So that's me in a nutshell. Thanks.
I didn't know you had a background in dance.
I do actually. My undergrad was musical theater performance and political science. And then I went on to get my master's degree in dance education administration. And then I did that for at CU, UNC, and then I hopped over to K-State, and then I landed myself in law school at UMKC.
Wow, great background.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Jennifer Harpel.
Morning, everyone. I'm Jennifer Harpel. I am a partner at the law firm Littler Mendelson. I have been practicing employment law in Colorado since 2007. And so one of the areas that we advise companies on is definitely disability and accommodation issues, leaves of absence, all the types of workplace accommodations that individuals with disabilities may need. Very excited to be here as well and to be able to participate in this process. On a personal level, I have, I have family members who have certainly struggled with mental health disabilities, and so have a particular interest in that area and accommodating the needs of folks in that area as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Did I get all of the task force members?
Yeah, Julie raised her hand. I don't know if she meant to or if she jumped on her phone.
Julie?
Didn't. I was trying to find a thing to do a thumbs up for the mental health comment.
Okay. Thanks. Elizabeth?
Just real quick, I meant to also apologize in the event I have to jump off a video a little before 9:30. I need to take my board retreat starts today. So I'll still be with you if we don't wrap up, but I'll probably go off video and just plug in my ears and hit the road.
Sure. Fair enough. And I anticipate that this won't last longer than until about 8:45. The primary focus for today is to provide some recommendations for the governor to consider so that he can make his appointments before September 15th. So I'll go ahead and hand it to staff. Josh, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Josh Winkler. I'm Senior Disability Policy Advisor in the Lieutenant Governor's Office, and it's a great pleasure to get to work in the administration. On the other side, I spent about a little over a decade on the advocacy side. I was Julie's co-chair of her board for almost 10 years. Was on the ARC Colorado board for, I think, 5 years. Served on a number of different governor-appointed committees over the years. So it's been a great honor to be over on this side of the table for a while.
Jennifer Farrell.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer Farrell. I'm the Boards and Commissions Coordinator in the Office of the Governor. And I've been with the Governor's office for about a year and a half now.
Mark Honan.
Great. Thanks, Jenny. Good morning, everybody. Great to meet everyone, at least virtually. Mark Honan, I serve as Chief of Staff to Lieutenant Governor Primavera. I've been her chief now for about a little over 2 years, and then been with Lieutenant Governor of the administration for about 4 years. Prior to having the honor to serve for Lieutenant Governor in the administration, I spent 9.5 years active duty Air Force, including my final assignment teaching at the Air Force Academy, and also a deployment out to Afghanistan.
Thanks, Mark. Alejandra.
Hi, I'm Alejandra Garza. It's so nice to meet y'all. Sorry, I'm actually commuting right now to the Capitol, so my kind of driving and listening and taking notes as I'm here. I am the Deputy Chief of Staff here for the Lieutenant Governor. I'm really happy to join. This is actually my second round with the Polis Primavera administration. I previously worked in the community engagement space in Governor Polis's office, also worked for Congresswoman DeGette and Congressman Jason Crow. So really passionate about these issues and thankful for all the work that y'all are doing.
Thank you. Jennifer McPherson.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jennifer McPherson. I'm the Deputy Director at the Colorado Civil Rights Division in Dora.
Awesome. And Katie O'Donnell, our Director of Communications, is behind the scene running the Zoom and YouTube streaming. So Katie, do you want to say hi?
Hi, everybody. Hopefully everything is seamless and you won't even know I'm here, but happy to be here.
Awesome. All right. So today we were going to go through, we circulated documentation so that folks could recommend their top 3 folks with regards to 4 categories. First was an attorney with litigation experience. Second was a representative of a veterans service organization. Category C was folks that have submitted applications, expressed interest, but didn't necessarily fall into one of the statutory required categories. And then category D, folks who could represent government and or business. And so I'm going to have Katie show the tally that I have to date from folks that had provided submissions. And right now it's a pretty even or a good divide with regards to Katie.
Julie, if you're trying to speak, you're breaking up, so.
Julie, did you want to? Okay, I think we'll probably get her. So Katie, if you can kind of just show a little bit more of the tally to date. So we have a strong 3 candidates to recommend with regards to attorney with litigation experience. Tim Fox received top 5 votes, and then Andrew Montoya, and then Kelly McCullough. Category B, we are still looking for folks who can represent the Veterans Service Organization. There was a write-in from somebody who recommended Representative Ortiz.
If I can jump in here real quick, because the specifics on, I mean, I wrote the bill. So the specifics on organizations that represent specifically veterans with disabilities, as far as I know, that's 2 organizations that would fit that specifically, and that's Mountain States Chapter of Paralyzed Veterans of America, and that's also DVA, Disabled Veterans of America. And I have really close relationships, obviously, with Mountain States PVA, but none with DVA. So the UVC would be a good, the United Veterans Coalition would be a good go-between to figure out who's in charge of DVA right now. But other than me, that would be Izzy Abbas. If you guys aren't familiar with who he is, he lives with MS. He actually brought back Post 1, the very first post. We were actually founded in the basement of the Colorado State Capitol in 1899. But he brought it back from the brink of losing their charter back in the, I like 2012s, 13s. So it has a lot of leadership in veterans of foreign wars. Once he was diagnosed with MS, became leadership in Mountain States Paralyzed Veterans of America. He's been a great mentor to me. He's just an amazing human being. He was infantry in the Army. The other one is Tom Wheaton, and he's been leadership on national PVA. And if you're not familiar with the work that national PVA does, Heather Ansley is their lobbyist in DC. She's been absolutely amazing, and not just fighting for our benefits, but for fighting for basic access when it comes to air travel in particular. But they fight for basic access issues alongside the rest of our civil rights disabled organizations as well. So those would be the other two names that I would put forward, is Izzy Abbas and Tom Wheaton.
Thank you. Did any other folks have suggestions for that category at all? All right.
Rep Ortiz, have they applied, or are they people that we need to reach out to?
That's probably the second lieutenant governor, if I'm being honest. I know that Izzy, as he's losing more function, is trying to get as much traveling as he can. So he's currently out of town. And Tom Wheaton is coming out of dealing with a bout of dealing with infections from a pressure ulcer. So they will have to reach out to them, is the short story.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next category. Folks that are interested in serving but don't explicitly fall into either of the categories. We have a good top three. Jack Johnson is at the top, Danny Combs, and then Cindy Vaughn. And then the final category, government or business, Tom Aker, 4 votes, Allison Butler, 3. Oh, and Danny Combs for 2. So, yeah.
Jenny, if I can just note one thing out, last category, there's 4 total appointees for that category that we'll also need. So we probably need to go a little further down that list of how many got votes, because there's 4 appointees from that category.
And I'll just share with you the, Katie, if you can share the work group. So if they didn't get to, then there's a number of folks that have votes, 1 vote. And so we'll include those in category D.
And category D is the one that needs 4 people, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we have a few many there. Chris Hines, Sarita, Kathy, Rochelle. So plenty of folks for the governor to consider.
So Jenny, are we supposed to be discussing each one of these now, or advocating for a certain person, or how's that? Other than reading?
At this point, the idea was primarily just to at least give the top 3 to the governor so that he could consider quite a few candidates, as opposed to just giving him 1 from each category. So these are going to go over to Nikki and Jennifer. And then my understanding, Jennifer, you guys have an interview process that you would provide and then recommend those on to the governor for consideration. Is that correct?
Yes, so we'll probably hold interviews with the recommendations, and then we will bring them to the governor for final decision. And the turnaround time is pretty quick on that, so we can do that hopefully within a week or so.
Okay, so today we need to talk about the people that didn't make the cut for category D, right? I mean, that's one of the things we need to figure out, is who are going to be our recommendations.
Yeah, and I saw Rep Ortiz had his hand up a minute ago too. But yeah, I think and if there's concerns, or anybody that maybe, you saw on the list and you're like, oh yeah, Danny got votes in 2 categories. So if you think he belongs in one versus the other, things like that, just kind of sorting through where you think people should be.
Okay, well, of course, I'd like to advocate for Chris Hines, because he's with the Denver City Council and, has a physical disability. I think, like Rep Ortiz, he understands how difficult it is to run for office and or serve in an elected capacity. They had to revamp their whole architectural setup, so he could serve in city council as well. I've known him for years. In fact, I'm the one who convinced him to run for office. He used to come to the Capitol when I was in the legislature and do a lot of lobbying, was real interested in parking and transportation and those kinds of things. So I think Chris knows the state process really well in terms of legislation and things, and I think he knows city council also. And so I would advocate for Chris somewhere.
I would second the lieutenant governor's pushing for Chris Hines. I mean, we saw in a very public way, right? That news story that came out, how he was blocked basic access during a debate. The one thing I will say is I saw Julie put in there that he wanted to focus on basic access and government subcommittee, and that I've had individual conversations with him, and his preferences would be the basic access in government or basic access in the outdoors. And the only reason why he put basic access in the outdoors when I had a conversation with him was because in that we're going to talk about accessible parking in our open spaces. And his big push in city council has been accessible EV charging stations. And so by, and us discussing, that's kind of where that would fall. Although I am bringing a bill forward this year to deal with mandating basic access for electric vehicle charging stations. So that might not be where he wants to end up if that gets handled in the legislature already.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all about that, and I know he got hurt riding his bicycle. So I know prior to his injury, he was, taking advantage of the outdoors as well.
I see Elizabeth with her hand up.
Yeah, this is Elizabeth, and I too would second Chris Hines. One of the things I would like to see him in more of the government accessibility arena, just because I know for my folks in our chapters, one of the things we talk about a lot, particularly that intersection, the intersection of intellectual and developmental disability coupled with other disabilities, and the lack of access to what's going on in our Capitol, to government spaces, to judicial spaces, and I would really like someone who has that lived experience navigating those spaces to have a strong voice.
I'll just mention the other three, the bill gave a lot more time for. So like if that is the government one is the better fit for Chris, we have till October 31st for those recommendations have to go to the governor. So before the governor has to make the appointments, the recommendations have to go to him a little bit ahead of that. So if that, I think Rep. Ortiz, if you've had that conversation with him, especially, I think that probably is, where he has the most expertise and desire right now.
Katie, could you scroll up a little bit too, so we could see the final?
Do we want to start with the very top and decide if those are
work our way down?
Yeah, don't you think?
Yeah.
So in terms of category A, I'm fine. I'm personally fine with all the nominees.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Julie likes category A picks also. So do we vote or do we just kind of do a consensus kind of thing here? But
since everybody's kind of voted and prioritized based upon majority vote, I think a consensus with the group here would work.
I move that we recommend the three individuals that received. I move that we recommend the three individuals that received the most votes to the governor.
I will second that. It's Elizabeth.
Any discussion? Seeing none. Yep.
Ortiz, I just wanted to add, did you want to submit your name for that category or withdraw it based upon the two that you already recommend?
We're in category A still. I made a motion on category A. We're not on B yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed,
Aye.
no. All right. Ayes have it. Now we're on category B. I just put a name in there. I would like to hear from the group. I wrote this on purpose because I wanted veterans to have a bigger seat at the table, and I wanted to make sure that we had stronger allies. I didn't want to create an area where those that have consistently been opposed to basic access and disability rights have a majority on these subcommittees. So it doesn't have to be me. If there's a name that I talked about in their background that sounded particularly attractive to y'all, I'm more than willing to put my name off and then to recommend either of those two.
So Rep Ortiz, you put your name in the category.
That was me, because I was filling this up course last minute and was like, let's just get this done and in. But that's why I wanted to present the other names here during the meeting, because I was reflecting on it last night before the meeting, and I just want to give you guys an opportunity to decide. Go ahead, Elizabeth, I see your hand up.
Yeah, you mentioned Izzy's name, and I will tell you that. So I am being sort of, a returnee to the state of Colorado just this last late November. I'm still learning sort of the who's who. And so I just sort of got online and to investigate and say, well, who are the movers and shakers in the veterans rights world in Colorado? And his name kept popping up. And so I did just tap into a couple of disability advocacy network colleagues to say, who do you know, what have you? And his name kept coming up as sort of the person, the voice, a reasonable voice, and someone who's, but also a mover and shaker, but who knows really well all of the systems and agencies and how everything's connected. And so when you mentioned his name, I don't, Representative Ortiz, tell me his last name. The name Izzy is ringing in my head, but
Abbas.
Yep. So that name came up many times in conversations. So I don't know what the process is at this point. Is it we reach out to him to ask if he'd be interested? How would that work at this point?
I can see it from the governor's office side. So we did reach out to him at one point, but it makes sense if he's traveling that maybe he just didn't see the email, or so we can definitely do some follow up with him from the board side. Do a direct reach out to sometimes having the conversation is easier than just getting an email with links to here's how you can apply.
I can get you his personal contact information, Josh, and
Okay.
he's back in town on 17th September. So
Not
he will.
17.
Yeah. So
Okay.
if that's too late, again, if that's too late, I'm just offering the names that I can. I could shoot him a text and see if he has time to message with you to make time for that beforehand, if that would be helpful for you, Josh.
Yeah, it would. And I think, during session, I know that he knew about this and, had shown interest in serving in some capacity on this. So I think that it probably just caught bad timing on when we reached out.
Let's do that. I'll do a group text with you and him. And if we can get him to commit and be able to commit the time, then if everyone in the committee is okay with recommending his name, as long as he is able to commit the time and agrees, then I'll move.
I'm fine.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lieutenant Governor.
Rep Ortiz. Yeah, I'm fine with that. And if he doesn't, I think, did you mention he had some health issues going on right now or something? So if he doesn't want to serve, maybe in all of his work, he knows someone that he could recommend that could serve. And then if we strike out with that one, then Tom Wheaton, if we can, get a hold of him, because Rep Ortiz, aren't you on the main disability rights task force too? So that would be double work for you. And you're already which is
I am no lawyer, so the CADA subcommittee is not. I mean, my particular strengths would be fighting on the outdoor, and rec area. But so yeah, if someone else wants to take it, I'm more than happy to move that way.
Okay. All right. So Josh, you're going to do the reaching out, correct?
Yeah, Rep Ortiz and I'll connect, and we'll do the follow-up over the next couple days.
So then do we get back together again, Jenny, after they make contact and vote on this person, or do we just say now this is okay if this person wants to serve?
I think that the more folks that we can recommend to the governor is going to be helpful. We can definitely do another call to action from folks to say, here's the final top. With regard, just in case that, folks don't want to serve, and then we still need to go and take a look at that category again. So we can do it via email.
Okay.
I'll move that we recommend Izzy Abbas in the case that he is unable to or chooses not to. Then we would confer as a group via Zoom or phone call again to discuss that if needed. But that way we can just move forward. So that's the motion I want to make, and unless anyone objects.
It's fine with me.
Category C. I'm really happy about these choices, to be honest with the group. I don't know too much about Cindy, so if someone wants to personally speak to that recommendation for me real quick.
I can tell you a little bit about Cindy. I think I met her when I was in the legislature, Rep. Ortiz. She's deaf-blind, but she's also done a lot of work in the DD space, I think. And so, you know, when she comes to meetings and things like that, she of course can't use ASL because she can't see. So they do this special kind of interpretation on her back where she can, you know, understand what's going on in the committee hearings and different things like that. She's real level-headed. I don't know that we have anybody deaf-blind and represented anywhere. And, you know, one of the groups that my heart really goes out to always is the deaf-blind, because, you know, I think they have some of the most difficult challenges. So I think she'd be a really reasonable, knowledgeable, and she shows up. So I think she'd be one that we could count on.
Absolutely sold. Great. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor.
And just as a reminder, in this category, there's only going to be one person appointed to the non-attorney role for this. So it'll be one of the three.
Do we want to prioritize him for the governor then, in terms of who we would like him to choose first, second, third?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean, Jack Johnson did receive the most votes, and I support that decision. I am totally okay with that decision. I've worked with Jack Johnson very closely this past session. He is extremely involved. He knows the law, and he's very politically savvy. He's very level-headed. I mean, part of the reason why we came to this task force was because we were experiencing a lot of headwinds in our other disability rights bills, and this was recommended as kind of the compromise to be able to work on the tougher aspects of certain parts of the bill. So I feel 100% confident in recommending Jack Johnson as the #1 pick here.
He's not somebody I know, and of course I'm trying to go back and forth between information. So can you tell me a little bit more about him, Rep. Ortiz or somebody?
Sure, I'll start off, and if anybody wants to chime in that has known him longer and knows him in a separate capacity. So he's a lawyer that does advocating and lobbying for Disability Law Colorado. He's litigated a lot of these basic access claims and situations when it comes to us trying to participate in everyday life. My experience with Jack is every piece of disability rights law, even in areas that he's not too familiar with, like outdoor rec, for example, either personally or legally. He has dove headfirst right into. He's been extremely instrumental in the work that I've been doing around disability rights. Him and Andrew Montoya, as well, obviously, as well as Julie and Hillary. Like that's been the core of the team that has been pushing for a lot of these groundbreaking disability rights bills. And not only is he a lawyer, he knows the law, but he is very politically savvy in garnering relationships and building compromise and building consensus and trying to move forward with moving the needle towards basic access versus digging in his heels and, you know, dying on bridges that might not necessarily serve the community. I've just been very impressed by what I've seen from him in my work with him.
Great, thanks.
One thing I would just note is this category technically doesn't have litigation experience, and he's a brand new lawyer. So he's, I believe, sat in on the cases, but not actually been the attorney on those cases. So that's why he fits this category, not the litigator category.
Got it.
Thanks, Judge.
I'll jump in and I'll second. I support Jack as our #1 candidate as well. The ARC of Colorado, we're working closely with them, with Disability Law Colorado, on a community engagement tour, and he was an instrumental and reliable resource during the last legislative session, in the sense of not just understanding what the law was but also understanding how that law fit into other pieces of law, the impacts of some of those nuances and intersections. And Josh, I know he's not yet litigated, so I do think he has set in on some of that litigation for sure with Disability Law Colorado, but he's not licensed yet. He just sat for his bar at the end of July, so he's still waiting for his results. So I know he's not yet a licensed practicing attorney, but certainly he has a lot of experience with a lot of attorneys in this arena. I think the other thing I would say about Jack is he's, we talk about like, how do we all want to be? We want to be trustworthy, reliable, timely, someone who's detail oriented, someone who goes above and beyond. And Jack's, in my experience with him just in the last 7 months, he's that person.
And remind me again, what's his disability?
He does not have a disability.
Oh, does not. Okay.
But he is, I think if you talk to anyone who knows Jack, super passionate. And if you ask him, I asked him recently because I'm hiring a position for a senior policy person right now. And I said, Jack, I said, what's your dream job? And he goes, I've got my dream job. He lives and he breathes it.
Great. Okay. Thanks.
Julie.
So everyone's comfortable with that category going forward with Jack. It looks like he's definitely the number one.
Right.
Correct? Okay.
All right. This last category, was this the one that was supposed to be 4? Josh, is that what was stated?
Yeah, so this is one, there's just 4 from government and business. So we split all government, all business, some mix of those two. So yeah, it'll need 4 names at least total.
Can we scroll to the bottom then so we can see where the other votes lied since those names were only 3? Okay. So does everyone feel comfortable with Allison, Daniel, and Tom being the top 3? I'm seeing no objection, so I'm going to take that as an affirmative, or is there discussion on those top 3?
The Daniel Combs, is that?
Yeah, Daniel Combs, Allison Butler, and Tom Aker were the top 3 of those.
Sometimes he's referred to as Danny Combs, so I wasn't sure if it was the same person. So yeah, that's fine. So we need one more.
That's correct, Lieutenant Governor. Do we have, Lieutenant Governor pushed for Chris Hines and there were others. Does everyone feel comfortable making that the 4th, or was there any other discussion?
Just to be clear, so I thought that the thought was that he was a better fit for the government reportees, for the government subcommittee versus the
correct. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right, Josh. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. Appreciate that. So then, of the others on this list, is there strong feelings towards anyone has that they'd like to advocate for?
Can you move it up again, please? No, I mean just for category D, so we can see who else we're thinking about.
So the other names I see are Sarita. I'm going to butcher that last name, so I'm not even going to try. Kathy Birds, Melanie Mills, Rochelle Mitchell Miller, and hold on, let me move my camera. And Katharina Hugi.
And I just gonna note on Katharina, she goes by Kat. I've met her. She actually is with Dirt Coffee. So she's actually the nonprofit that does job training for people with neurodiversity and has a hearing disability herself.
And Dirt Coffee's in my district. They're amazing.
They have 2 locations, so they're in your district and somebody else's. So yeah. And Sarita, as a reminder, she was in the Colorado Springs area, I believe, and did some health business of some sort. I forget what. And Rochelle, she runs the, and Julie mentioned this in the chat earlier, that I spoke favorably of her, but she runs the Center for Independent Living in Colorado, in Greeley. Connections for Independent Living, I believe is what that one's called.
That's not the that's not the nonprofit that evicted the wheelchair users to make room for the brain injury, is it?
No, that's the other
Okay.
one. That's the, yeah. No, they're the Independent
Just
Living
making sure.
Center, not the sorry, they're the Center for Independent Living, not the Independent Living,
Gotcha.
like assisted living kind of facility that the other one was.
Appreciate that, Josh.
And now remind me again where Chris Hines wound up.
So either government or outdoors. So that's where, because in my conversations with him, that's where he wanted to go as far as subcommittees. And he, like, I asked him, I was like, well, do you want to be on everything? And he was mentioning that he didn't think he would have the time to be on every subcommittee.
So we haven't gotten to outdoors yet, correct?
No, that's correct, Lieutenant Governor.
So, as we make our decision, I think we need to be mindful that whatever we do, we've got good geographic representation from, all areas of the state, because we want to make sure, rural is, that these aren't just all Denver people. I think we need to be sensitive to the fact that we have good cultural or ethnic or whatever diversity as well. And then I think we need to make sure that we have as many disability groups represented as we possibly can. Because I know there's one person that was on the list above who is deaf. I don't know if we have any people who are deaf representing that community. But if we go through this list of people we've picked, have we met all those categories, Jenny, do you think?
That would be a good question. We can go back and run through the applications with Nikki and Jennifer and make sure that those are all are met, and then we can share with you that.
Because if we have the Weld County one and we have the Colorado Springs one, can we go through our picks and just see where they are or where they live or what their disability is at the end to make sure we've got this all covered?
That's a great idea.
So I think Allison is Denver. I think Danny's Denver. Tom Aker is Wiggins or somewhere, I think, out there. So we might have a Wiggins isn't real rural, but it's close enough, I think. So I don't know if we have the Western Slope on here anywhere, if we have Northern or Southern. So maybe we should think of somebody from Greeley or somebody from Colorado Springs.
Well, Sarita's from Douglas County. Still closer.
I thought she was from Colorado Springs, but
in her application it says Douglas, unless that's incorrect.
no, you're probably right. It's my memory. It's this brain fog from COVID today.
Exactly. I mean, I like the only reason why I know is because I got some of the files right here in front of me.
Okay.
Where's Katharina? Where's Kat from? Kat's from Weld.
Kat's from Weld County. Wow.
That's what her application. Again, I'm going off of what their application.
Yeah.
And that's Katharina Huey, or is it Kathy Birds?
I was talking about Huey.
Okay. It's Kat. I couldn't remember which Kat we were talking about.
Yeah, Rochelle's from Denver. Birds, where's Birds from? Oh, I'm sorry. No, Birds is from Weld and Huey's from Arapahoe.
Well, I'm okay with Weld if we haven't picked somebody from the northern part of the state yet in any of the other committees.
So that would be Cat Birds. Does everyone feel comfortable with that pick? Or are there any other discussions on what we're leaning towards more?
I'm comfortable if everybody else is.
Okay, seeing no objection, that'll be.
Julie says not comfortable.
Oh, okay, Julie, go ahead. Sorry.
Maybe Julie's bad spot on the highway.
No base. That's like.
I was just saying, I think it might be the experience thing. I'm trying to interpret for Julie that just like in this particular area that Kathy Birch doesn't have experience with like the statutory side of things, which the Cotta, to your point, or really Rep Ortiz about, being so attorney heavy, having somebody that has that experience. The other thing is, I mean, if there's the agreement on the 3, I think that, we could do another sweep through the boards and commissions has lots of applications, people that applied for other boards, to see if there's some other folks from, chambers of commerce or things like that that have applied over the years that maybe, Kathy Hall wasn't able to join today from the main task force. She's from Grand Junction. So she might even know some people out on that side of the state that we could get her to help us. Get another name for, to your point, LG, outside of the metro area, because the other 3 in this category are pretty tied to the metro area.
How do we, I mean, Julie brings up a good point. How do we feel about Sarita then, being from Douglas? I mean, I feel like that's to be honest, I feel like Douglas County isn't considered rural, in my opinion. That's more suburban, like that they are. I mean, we make the joke about Dougco Karens, right? Like that is, that joke exists for a reason. And I feel like they're more suburban than they are rural.
This is Elizabeth. So that one vote I'm guessing is probably mine. And it was based purely on, because I didn't have familiarity with many people on this list. And it's based purely on reading of the bio and then doing a little bit of internet research and trying to look at it. And one of the reasons I was also just looking at the diversity of our boards, and she brings that element.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we really need to be mindful of that too. So
yeah, I think putting a woman of color, especially if it's AAPI, would be a strong pick personally.
okay, I'm good.
Julie supports it. She said she's great.
Okay, so are we in agreement that Sarita is going to be our 4th pick for that part of the committee?
Yes.
Right. Thanks, Elizabeth and LTG.
You bet.
So can we run through the list one more time, Ginny, to make sure we're just to kind of get an idea if we have all of our bases covered from north, south, east, west, and diversity and disability and all that good stuff.
Yeah, and one of the things I can do is create like a chart that shows the different breakups so you can see that visually.
Okay.
But why don't we start with the bottom here? So we have Sarita, Tom Aker, Daniel Combs, and Allison.
So we know that Tom Aker has some disability or some lived experience, but we don't know what, correct? And then Danny Combs, his son, has autism. Allison, does she have a disability? Is she the person who's had cancer diagnoses?
Yeah, she has cancer and has a disability as a result of the cancer.
Okay. So we have 2 Denver and potentially 2 that aren't Denver. Okay.
And then Katie, can you scroll back to the top just to go through the A, B, and C again for them too?
So here we have pretty clear suggestions for the governor. Top vote would be Tim Fox.
Is he from Denver?
And Tim lives in Denver. Kelly was in Denver. Andrew is, I don't remember if it's Longmont or Lafayette, but one of those 2.
Mm-hmm. Are we recommend? So are we picking one from these? Or are we picking 3?
I was just trying to get an idea of what flavor we have so far in terms of metro versus rural, disability, experience, those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
So, Josh, Tim has a disability, is that correct?
Yeah, Tim's a quadriplegic. Andrew does not have a disability, but lives up in Longmont, is on the BIPOC population. I understand Julie just say in chat. And Kelly, I don't know if Kelly has a disability or not. I don't think she said in her application.
Is she from? You say she's from Denver, also, Josh?
Yeah.
Hey.
If we're picking one, I'm gonna push for Andrew Montoya, being the fact that he's a person of color and that he doesn't live in the Denver metro area specifically. And I know again, he's been an ally in doing this work, a strong ally in doing this work.
Yeah, I
from
think,
education.
haven't we already picked? I'm just trying to get an idea of flavor of the committee so far.
Understood.
And there's two from this category as well, Rep Ortiz. So it could be two of those three to try to balance it out in the end of those kind of representations. I also just note that, you know, Kelly and Jack are both from Disability Law Colorado. So just something to think about if, you know, if it's gonna be two people from one organization or not. Or Jack's the top choice in that category C, then maybe Andrew and Tim from category A, and the governor will also look at all this geographic and racial diversity and stuff. So
I like that.
Danny Combs in two categories. We could maybe broaden category C a little bit if we want Danny Combs in the business one. I can't see the whole list, so I think we picked Danny Combs in the final one.
yeah, you did.
So we could sub out Danny for someone from a different part of the state. Or so if we're doing category C, I think we had a person who was deaf that we haven't considered anywhere. Who Sullivan, I think was his name, right?
No, Shannon Callahan.
Callahan.
Yeah. And I'd have to look where I think he might be metro area.
Yeah. Because we're pretty heavy metro. We're probably pretty heavy white. So just a thought on category C to get the deaf community involved.
For category C, my vote's still going to go to Jack Johnson. That is just because of the work that he has done and how instrumental he was on CATA, the original bill that I had brought forward, which led to the subcommittee. So I understand what we're trying to do with, and we will, you know, we can do it in other areas. But
I was just trying to swap out Danny Combs.
Oh, gotcha.
Since we have him in two areas.
Understood, Lieutenant Governor. Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah, Shannon is also in Denver. So yeah, brings a different disability type, but is in Denver also.
Because I assume the governor is going to want to see statewide representation, but yeah, I would vote for swapping Danny out on category C, keeping him in category D, and maybe putting Shannon just to hear from the deaf community up in category C.
And I did just look, Danny's actually golden. So metro area, but farther out in the metro area.
We have north, south, east, west Denver. That's good.
I do wish we had more rural representation. We just got back from a community engagement tour and with 2 stops, 1 in Steamboat and 2 in Craig. And there's a lot of folks out there that want to get involved, but I just trying to get them to fill out the applications and, you know, and get ahead of it is
right. Yeah, we could.
The one thing I just noted though is, you know, now this is the CATA subcommittee. So this is kind of like, you know, the core of everything, but also not like detail specific to any one of the other areas where the subcommittees will dig in more. And, you know, the housing issues in a rural area versus an urban area are going to be different. So that will be important. The outdoors, same thing. Government access, same thing. So I think we could continue to work on pushing out and encouraging people to apply for those other 3 in the meantime.
It's a great point, Josh.
And Elizabeth, I'll also add that we will be opening these up, you know, remotely so that people can join. We also have a new tool at Dora where we can get written feedback from folks, even if they can't like be on the committee or participate. So we have opportunities to get that feedback, especially from the folks that you mentioned that are in rural Colorado. If we could get those names, you know, we can add them to our stakeholder log for sure.
Yeah, that's great. I'll do an outreach throughout the ARC network and ask them to just get the message out.
Great.
Thanks.
So what do we want to do? Do we want to take Danny Combs out of one of the two categories? Put somebody else in?
I think that was the agreement, Lieutenant Governor. I think that was smart what you said. I think we're trying to follow that.
So we want him out of category C, is that right, Rep. Ortiz? And keep him in government or business since he runs TACT?
Correct. Everyone else in agreement with that?
People maybe fell asleep without enough coffee, Rep. Ortiz.
Yeah. Silence is complicity, so I'm not going to take silence as a yes.
And is there any other suggestion other than, and again, only one person for this category is picked. So I think that if there's less names, it's not, you don't need to give the governor 5 for that category or anything, but other than Shannon Callahan, is there any other suggestion of who to put into that category C list?
Wait, for category C, I thought we were putting Jack. Or we're adding and taking out Danny and putting Shannon for the third now.
Exactly, as a potential
Gotcha.
alternate. Yeah.
Understood. I appreciate it, Jen. Yep. Thanks, Josh.
Well, I'm good with it.
I am as well. Any objection? Hearing none. Great. All right.
All right.
I think we tied that up neatly. This is a great working group. This has been the easiest committee I've been a part of in a long time.
Yeah, you've had a baptism by fire over there in the legislature. So,
Amen.
all right. Is that it for today then, Ginny?
Yep. We will compile this information to be shared with the boards and commissions office, and we can break out the diversity elements that have been identified.
Great.
Share those with the group at large. And then Nikki and Jennifer will run their process with the governor. And then he can choose by the deadline, September 15th.
If I may, real quick, I got to thank Josh for kind of being the go-between when we were working this bill last year and kind of help bring it to fruition. Him and the Govs team. And Lieutenant Governor, I can't thank you enough for lending so much weight to this task force by being essentially the de facto leader of it. I really appreciate the fact that you decided to put yourself in this work, and it's so needed and well overdue. So I can't thank you enough for agreeing to lead the charge. And for everyone else, I mean, Elizabeth, Julie, like obviously thank you guys too, but I just wanted to give a specific shout out to the Govs team and to the Lieutenant Governor for making this a reality. And I'm really excited to work with y'all.
Well, actually, Rep. Ortiz, you have the power. You're the one that got it to cross the finish line. So thanks for your work too. We just need everybody, all hands on deck on these efforts, because it's a group that certainly doesn't have much voice. So.
And Representative Ortiz, thank you for taking the lead on that, because it's I'll tell you, for the IDD community, one of the things we talk about a lot are we often feel like we're sort of the stepchild who gets left out on issues, and so I am thrilled to be a part of this, and to give voice to that population as well. Appreciate it.
I look forward to seeing, a legislator that identifies with an IDD that finally gets elected, because I think those in the IDD community do get overlooked and written off constantly. So long overdue.
Yep. All right. We got a great group. Yay. I'm excited.
I'll just add one more comment. So we are working, the next meeting that you'll have will be your onboarding and orientation with our Attorney General's legal counsel, so they can go through all the legal requirements. We're looking to getting 100% quorum. That is proving to be very difficult. So we're doing another sweep again for the last week in September. So it'll be coming out in a doodle poll, but we do need to have 100% participation. So just a heads up on that.
So Jenny,
okay, sorry.
Rep. Ortiz, if by some chance we can't get 100%, is it possible? I know the AGs are very busy, but could they give us a one-on-one tutorial and catch us up on, say Rep. Ortiz is too busy, I'm too busy or something, we can't make the doodle poll. Can they give us a one-on-one?
We will look into that. Possibly, we might have an alternative where if we record the initial presentation with the group at large, then we could use that for folks as well. I need to just make sure that legally that kind of,
Right.
stands up. But yeah, we're looking at definite alternatives to make sure that that's more accommodating for folks. So, and we will send out all the information that you need to read through in advance. And of course, if you have any questions, concerns, please give me an email. We'll respond. We will also announce at that meeting the person who will be awarding the contract to, and elect a chair at that meeting as well. And I think that'll cover the first 2 hours or 2 hours. It'll be maximum 2 hours. Yeah.
Great.
Oh, and then a cadence for everybody. I think that at least what we've seen, that maybe a regular cadence might lend itself to something that benefits everybody, as opposed to doing a doodle poll each time the large task group has a meeting. So choosing a cadence like twice a month, the first Monday, last Friday, whatever works for folks. So
Agreed.
just be thinking about that as well.
Last thing I'll mention is the DEM leadership is taking this so seriously that they've assigned a staffer to this task force and to all disability rights legislation. And her name is Amadia. So if there's any questions, if you need her contact or need to discuss with her for any reason, I'll make sure y'all get her contact. But
oh yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I just want people to know the email that comes directly to me, because some email goes to staff. So it's dprimavera@state.co.us, comes directly to me.
And Lieutenant Governor, you want these emails to go to you in addition?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you can send it to Diane whatever it is, Primavera, but Primavera comes right to me, so I'll get it faster.
Okay.
Kenny, that does all the scheduling, gets the Diane.Primavera ones though, so he always does first sweep on those and then forward. So as far as like scheduling and stuff, if you can use both, that's helpful. So Kenny's making sure to block off calendar space.
Okay, and I'm sorry, what was the D Primavera?
It's a D Primavera's LG's like direct one. Diane.Primavera, like the standard one, is the one that goes first through Kenny.
All right. Okay, now we have at least 6 for you, LG. So somebody will get them in that area.
Oh, good. That's good. I'm glad. We gotta make sure we communicate. So
yeah. All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great week.